Here, boy. Let's walk the dog. All right, guys, let's show you what we got going on tonight. So as you can see, we got some stainless steel pipe fittings here. We'll go over what type of pipe fittings these are for those who don't know, and then we'll go through the drawing, kind of show you guys what we got going on. I think this is going to be a pretty fun one. I enjoy TIG welding pipe, so it's been a day or two since we've had a TIG welding pipe job in the shop, so I'm kind of excited. We'll show you guys what we got. All right, so here's our drawing. So a customer came and they kind of told me what they needed. So we've got two separate adapters that we need here. So this one here, we got a 6-inch flange with a conch reducer going to a 4-inch flange. And then we have a 4-inch flange and a conch reducer going. All right, guys, so the first thing I think we should do is go over these fittings and talk about some of the important details involved when you're fitting pipe. So the first thing we'll go over is probably the most simple part, and that is a nipple. I'm sure most of you guys know what a nipple is. If you don't know what a nipple is, it's basically a piece of pipe that's threaded on both ends. That's a nipple. We're going to take this nipple, we're going to cut it in half, and we'll end up welding one half to our reducer. This part here has a couple different names. It's a reducer, short for conch reducer, which is also short for concentric reducer. So a couple different names there, but that's your reducer. And this one here is a 3-inch to 4-inch reducer. Whew, time for dinner. This is a 6-inch to 4-inch reducer. Typically you hear people refer to these parts as either a conch reducer or just a reducer. Our reducer welds to our flange like so. Now when you start getting into flanges, there's actually quite a bit of information that's important when you're welding flanges. This flange here is a 150-pound 316 stainless raised face socket flange. And that is a mouthful of information, but let's just break it down to make it easier. So on the side of your flange will be stamped some information. And if you look, there's a 150 right there. And that 150 means it's a 150-pound flange. So you'll have 150-pound flange, 300-pound flange. Some of the other details that you'll see on the flange are what type of material. 316 right there, that 316L, that means it's 316 stainless. You can see that it does have a raised face right here, and that's where the gasket goes. So this is a raised face flange, and then it is a socket joint. You can see how it's got that lip in there. So your pipe slides in and it butts into that lip, and then you weld it out here, and that is a socket joint. So that's just some of the information that's important when you're fitting pipe. Obviously the customer has supplied the fittings, so I don't need to worry about getting the right type of fittings because this is obviously what they need. So that makes it a little bit easier on us. But I just wanted to share some information with you guys that is important when you are fitting pipe. One of the jobs I had that allowed me to be able to learn a lot about pipe fitting was I worked at a reclamation plant, or basically a refinery, for about 6 years. And when they first built the facility that I worked at, they did everything in carbon pipe. Over the years, that carbon pipe started to wear out. It started to spring leaks, there was pitting. We ended up basically going through and replacing all the carbon steel pipe with stainless steel pipe. And so I had the opportunity to replace miles and miles, all different sizes, all different types of fittings, all different types of offsets. And it was a challenge, but it taught me a lot about fitting pipe. I also welded a lot of pipe, both mild and stainless, TIG, stick, MIG, at the fabrication shop that I previously worked at. So I have welded quite a bit of pipe. This is not a video on how everyone should fit pipe. This is a video on how I fit pipe. It's worked well for me in the past. So we'll get the Dynasty rolled out and set up, and we'll go ahead and show you guys how I like to fit these up. All right guys, so we're set up here in the vise. I typically like to fit fittings like this in the vise. I just feel like it's easier for me, and especially if I've only got one person, I don't have a second person to help me hold fittings, which tonight it's not looking like I'm gonna have an extra hand, so I'll be doing this on my own. There's a lot of tools here that are gonna make your life a lot easier when you're doing stuff like this. You need a lot of levels, 2-hole pins. I don't know if you guys have never seen 2-hole pins, this is what they look like. And these ones are actually called quick pins, and you can push this button and it will release the threads. In one of the previous stainless steel TIG welding videos, I did do a super cool tool segment on these, so check that out. But these are to help you fit up flanges, and I'll show you how you use those in just a second. I also prefer to use a dead blow hammer so you don't mar up your flange. Those are some of the main tools that I like to use while I'm fitting pipe. So the first thing I want to do is I want to level this up. So I'm going to take my 2-hole pins. What that does is it gives you a flat spot to mount your level, and they are steel, so it is magnetic, so it kind of helps hold your level on there. So it gives you a flat spot to put your level so that you can level this. And then what I'll do is I'll just tap it in the vise. And if you've got a good, nice level table, which I do, it should be fairly square with your vise, and you shouldn't have to move it too much. And this is actually saying it's right on. So I'm level with my 2-hole here. My flange is plumb. Okay, so I've got it snugged up. Everything's level. So now what I'm gonna do, and you wanna be careful not to bump the flange. I like to get these out of my way once I know that it's level. But I like to get it out of the way while I'm fitting up the conch reducer. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do here, is I'm gonna put this in. Sometimes you might have to take a piece of TIG rod and pound it flat and use it as a shim to get it centered inside your socket, because there's play there. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but there's quite a bit of play there. So I'm gonna grab a piece of welding wire and stick it under there to help me get this centered up. Okay, so that's just about right. So then what I'll do, and I'll move the camera to the side so you guys can see what I'm doing, but I'll actually take and hold this with one hand and the torch, and then I got my free hand that I can use to dab some rod. So we'll move the camera so you guys can see, but I'll get all set up and then we'll take a look at that. Okay, so I am using 332 tungsten. You can see it's sharpened to a needle point. For those of you who don't know, you weld stainless steel on DC TIG. I'm using 2% lanthanated. I've got 2 different sizes of rod here. I've got 332 and 16th. They are 316 stainless rod. I usually like to use 16th inch rod while I'm tacking things up, just because it melts quicker. I feel like it's a little bit easier when you're fitting up stuff. All right, so I'm gonna take my fitting here. Set that in there. So I've got it sitting on that piece of welding wire where I can yank that out of there when I'm done. But I've got it nice and centered. So then I'll hold it with one hand and I'll go ahead and use my free hand here to dab some rod. And I just put a nice little tack. Don't have to go crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna check this, make sure that it hasn't moved. We're still nice and level there. And I can actually throw my level on this, make sure it hasn't rotated. If you just match up the bottom of your level with your holes, and it's still right on, okay? Now, you gotta remember, when you're fitting stainless, it likes to pull. Like, it pulls twice as bad as mild steel. So I can see that it's moved a little bit. So I'm gonna wanna remember to push in on this when I tack the bottom. Okay, so now I'm gonna take and pull out my little spacer on the bottom. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the same thing on the bottom, and I'm gonna push on it when I do this. It's nice and level. So because this is a machine surface and the inside of the socket is a machine surface, I could just lay these down on the table and fit them like that. But I just wanted to show you guys one of the processes that you can use to fit this up. Now the other reason that I like doing it like this, if I've got it setting in the vise like it is now, it's 2-hole, it's leveled. Once I get this tacked up, I can take my 4-inch flange, throw it right on here and fit it up. So my plan is to get all these fit up. We'll just fit everything up tonight. And then if we don't get far enough to start welding tonight, I can come back out here tomorrow night and just start welding. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get a tack on either side. And one of the things that I'll do is I'll hurry and tack it and then jump over to the other side and tack the other one, because it will start pulling if you don't. And 4 tacks is really all you need to hold that together until you start welding it. You don't need to go crazy, and you don't need to be pumping a whole lot of heat into it before you start welding. Okay, there's a lot less play in this one than there is the 6-inch flange. So I think I'm going to be able to push this up just barely with my hand when I get this tacked on. So now I want to put my 2-hole pins back in. Okay, so I got my 2-hole pins back in. Now I'm going to check it, get it nice and level. And it's actually tight enough on this 4-inch flange that I shouldn't need any rod. I should be able to just sneak my torch in there and get a tack on this. So that's what we're going to do. And if I push on it, it's good there. So I should be able to sneak in here on the bottom, get a tack on it, and if I push on that, those flange faces are parallel. So I'm going to go ahead, sneak underneath here, and get a tack on it. Oh yeah, freaking money. Now the only thing left to do is to measure to make sure that they're parallel this way. So I'll just take my tape measure, pull off here, and make sure they're the same measurement. If they're not the same, but they're close, I'll tack the wider side first because they will pull together, and then I'll hurry and jump over and tack this other one. That should make it so the end result is that they're parallel. With stainless, one of the hardest parts about working with it is you almost have to predict how much it's going to pull. You kind of get a feel for it the more you work with it, and so you can kind of open it up a little bit and tack that side, and then it pulls it in, and then hurry and tack the other side. But it is one of the things that you deal with when you are welding on stainless. So I'm going to grab my tape. Okay, so I'll take my tape and a straight edge. So I just take my square here, push it against the face of that flange, and then I pull my tape, and it is exactly 6 9/16. We'll do the same thing on this side, and it is exactly 6 1/2. So here's what we're gonna do. The larger side, I'm gonna tack this one first because it is gonna pull. So I'll tack this one first and then hurry and jump over and tack this one, and it should pull it into where we need to be, to where it's consistent. So it's just a hair over 6 1/2. So that's definitely close enough. So we're gonna call that one good. So that's pretty much the process. So now that these are fit up, we'll go ahead and jump into time lapse, and I'll get the other 2 of these fit up, and then these ones are all fit up and ready to weld. When I get to the point where I'm ready to start fitting the other fittings, we'll come back to you and we'll show you the process that we go through for that, because it's a little bit different because we got to fit a nipple. So we'll go through that with you guys, but for now, we'll jump into time lapse and we'll get these knocked out. All right, guys, I've got Bridger out here with me now, so he's gonna help me fit these other 3 up. So same type of process to begin with. We're gonna put our 4-inch flange in the vise. We'll put the 2 hole pins in. This is actually the first video where we're using our new equipment, our new camera, our new audio. This is the first video where we'll be using that equipment for the whole video. So hopefully it's a little better for you guys. Hopefully we can get some better close-up footage. And I'm gonna mess around with it and try and see if I can rig up a welding lens from an old hood and see if I can get you guys some arc shots. Good and level. Checked it both ways. Okay, we're good. We'll put our reducer on. So now it's time to cut our nipples in half. Ouch. We'll go ahead and cut the nipples in half, and then we got to bevel them, and we're going to do that on the lathe. So we'll do that now. Okay, looks pretty square, but we're gonna get this over in the lathe and we'll put a bevel on it and we'll go from there. All right, so I don't wanna squeeze these threads too hard because I don't wanna jack them up. So I'm just gonna put this in here nice and gingerly like, snug so that it will hold it, but not so snug that we jack up the threads. So I got my compound set at 30 degrees. I'm gonna run the lathe backwards. Wow, that is ski womper. So we're gonna true that up. Hey, we're getting there. All right, so it's nice and square now. So now I wanna turn my tool post here so that I'm cutting kind of more square to the part. Getting close. So that's what it looks like. My little deburring tool, and run that through there just to knock that burr off. Nice and smooth. Okay, so 1 down. We'll go ahead and get these other 2 beveled off camera, but I just wanted to show you guys the process of that. This is another little pipe fitter trick. You take a piece of 1/16 inch TIG rod and you bend it like that. You use that as your gapping tool when you fit up butt joints. So this is a butt joint. So there's socket joints, which is what this one is, and this is a butt joint. So to fit this up, we're gonna have Bridger take our gapping tool and then he'll set that between there, and that gives us a nice consistent 1/16 inch gap around that joint so that when we run our TIG route, we get 100% penetration. So we'll have Bridger come over and he's gonna help me fit this up. Can you hold it right there?
Yep.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm. It's flexing.
A lot of people will try to level it off the face of this. I don't like to do that because if this isn't square with the pipe, then you're getting a false reading on your level. This is where you got to kind of guess how much it's going to pull. Well, I'm going to tack that just like that. And I want you to watch this. I want you to watch how much it pulls. See how I got the level touching the line? Keep watching.
It's perfectly in the middle now.
See that? That's the gift that keeps on giving all year round, Clark. The cap's a little bit bigger on this side. So I'm going to tack this one real quick and then I'll hit this one after. We could take it out, rotate it, check for level, but where this is just a threaded fitting going to a cam lock fitting, which is going to a hose, it's not do or die. So you can see it just got little teeny tacks on there. Got our 16th inch gap.
Yes.
We got 2 more to do like that. We're gonna see if we can't get them done in 15 minutes. We'll give you guys a look once we get these done. All right, guys, we got these all fit up. So tomorrow night I'll be back out. We'll go through purging and welding, and hopefully we'll be able to get these knocked out within the next couple nights. So that's the plan. We'll be back out tomorrow night and we'll start welding these out. See you guys tomorrow. What's going on, guys? We're back out here tonight. We're gonna see if we can't get some pipe fitting done, but I did want to show you guys another shop mod I've been working on. Finally got it tied up tonight, so I'll give you guys a look. So I went ahead and built the frame out of aluminum. You can see there's a piece of angle there on the end, and then 1-inch square tube for those legs. And then I burned some brackets where it bolts onto the purlin. And then I just took some eye bolts and hung this light. I actually ran power from the outlet up on top of the purlin, and that's where it plugs in up there. So the light I actually found at Costco, and I believe it was 26 bucks, I think. And I like that it has the switch. And I like that it has the switch right here, and it's pretty bright. I think it said it's 6,000 lumens or something like that. But it lights everything up pretty dang good over here. It just kind of helps where you're right up against the wall. I think that's going to be a good addition to the shop. So just wanted to show you guys that. Hopefully you guys enjoy seeing the shop mods and stuff like that. If you don't, let me know and I won't show them, but I figure most of you guys are kind of like me. You enjoy that type of stuff. You enjoy tools and little shop projects and stuff like that. So we'll get the Dynasty fired up, and we're going to start by welding these ones out. Now we are going to have to back purge these. These fittings we don't have to purge because they're socket fittings. We'll just be able to weld these out. They'll probably take 2 passes per joint, and we are going to walk the cup on those. This one here where we've got this butt joint, we've got to purge it so that it's pushing gas out of that gap, and then we'll go ahead and get our root on. Once our root is in, we don't have to purge it. So I'll roll a bottle over here and rig up a regulator. We'll tape this off and get our hose put in, and then we'll start welding. So I'll get all that stuff set up and then I'll give you guys a look. All right, guys, we're all set up here. We got our pipe fitting all taped up. I typically use frog tape. I've taken some flack for that in the past. I did have a viewer get pretty worked up about that on a previous video. Said that it would contaminate the weld, but I've been using frog tape for years and years on thousands of pipe joints, and I've never had an issue. And it's not like I'm jamming the tape in the joint. All it's doing is covering it up. And it will heat up, and some of the glue will be left on the outside, but I clean it up after, and it's never been an issue. So I'm just gonna continue to use it. I know a lot of guys will use tin foil. They'll stuff a big ball of tin foil in places like the end of the pipe. I've seen guys use the aluminum foil duct tape, and I emphasize duct tape, like for HVAC. A lot of guys will use that, but that's got glue on it too, so I don't see what the difference is. So I'll peel this back and I'll weld a quarter, and then I'll peel it back and I'll weld a quarter, and so on and so forth. And once the root's all in, we don't need to purge after that. So I'm using 16th inch stainless steel 316 TIG rod. So I'm gonna grab my gloves and we'll get rolling. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm heating it up to the point where it's burning a keyhole, and then I just dab in the keyhole. So as you burn that keyhole and dab your TIG rod in there, it should be pushing through to the inside and give you a nice TIG root. Peel this quarter back. My tacks are so small that I'm able to just burn right through them, and it flows in there just like they're not even there. Stainless burns a lot more fluid anyway. So I'll heat it up to the point where it's getting a pretty open keyhole, and then I just sit and dab in that keyhole. I'll give you guys a look at this once I get it done. So I just rotate that to where I can get to it, peel back another quarter, keep on rolling. And you can see I like to drape my hose for my TIG torch across my shoulder. Sometimes I'll put it all the way over my neck. The important thing is you want to be comfortable. And the reason I drape it over my shoulders is because then I'm not holding up all the weight of the hose. So that just kind of helps me. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the next one up here. We'll tape it off. Same routine. So we'll go into time-lapse mode and we'll get these welded out. So we'll get the other three up here. We'll weld these out. Once I get all the roots welded out, we'll give you guys a look. Okay guys, I'm going to give you guys a look at my root here. I was running a little bit warm. You can see how it's kind of a dark purple. If it turns gray, you're running too hot. So it was running a little warm there, but hopefully you guys can see my root. It's kind of hard to see. Hopefully you guys can see that. So you can see we got full pen. So now what I'm going to do is take my 332 rod and I'm going to start down here and I'll walk the cup uphill. And for those of you who don't know what walking the cup is, I hold the torch like this. And this is a number 7. Oh, this is a number 8 cup with a gas lens. But what you do when you walk the cup is it's basically like when you're walking a 50-gallon drum across the floor. This is what you're doing. And so I'll walk the cup over this. This is a typical pipe fitting practice. Most of the guys that fit pipe on a daily basis, they walk the cup. And so I hold the rod with my left hand and I feed rod with my left hand. And then I walk the cup like this. And I'll give you guys a look at what it looks like after I'm done. I am not a walking the cup pro, but I have done it quite a bit. I can do it good enough to where I'm completely comfortable with the type of work that I can produce. So we'll go ahead and we'll walk the cup around this one and we'll show you guys what it looks like when we're done. All right, so it's always good practice to keep your tungsten very sharp. Now when I'm walking the cup, I'll typically put my tungsten in the torch. My stick out is a little bit shorter just to avoid dipping my tungsten, so that's about where I put it. This torch actually doesn't have a flex head, but you can bend it. You don't want to bend it too much or you're going to break it, but I'll typically just go ahead and bend it about that much. So you want to make sure you feed enough rod when you're walking the cup. If you don't, you're going to get undercut. Okay, and then when I'm done, I like to take a stainless steel brush and I like to polish it. Not everybody likes to do that. Some guys like to leave the color. The color looks cool, but I feel like it looks more uniform if you brush it with a stainless brush, knock all the color off, then it's all uniform. And typically, you want to wait a minute before you brush it. You don't want to go right after it, or for some reason it kind of turns gray. So if you wait a minute, kind of let the temperature drop a little bit, and then when you brush it, it gives it a nice polish. Like I said, I'm not the greatest stainless steel TIG welder, the greatest at walking the cup. But you can see there's no undercut. Everything looks sound. So that's the process that I use. So that's a butt joint. So now I'm going to set this on the table. I actually like to weld fittings like this in the flat position, and I will walk the cup around this, but it's just kind of easier. I feel like I can get a longer run if I lay it flat. I'll go ahead and set this on the table. We'll get some video of me walking the cup around that socket joint. So what I'll do on this one is I'll set my torch like this, and then I just kind of walk it around like this. So on a joint like this, I will use more heat than on a butt joint because there's so much more material here. It's so much thicker. So I'm actually pumping quite a bit of rod into this. This is actually one of those jobs where I wish I had a weld positioner, because I could set it on the weld positioner and just spin it and just walk the cup the whole way around it and then be done someday. All right guys, so camera died in the middle of that. I did end up going around one more time all the way just to make sure I filled it up. It looked a little bit on the lean side when I got done with the first pass, so I ended up doing one more full pass. So I'm going to brush this now and I'll give you guys a look. Okay, I like it. I don't see any undercut. So I'm going to give you guys a look. Okay, so here's what it looks like. So I think it turned out good. So one down, got 3 more to do just like that one. So now that I got that one done, I'm going to jump into time-lapse mode. I'll go ahead and finish these other 2 out that are this same style. And then once I get those done, I'll come back to you guys and I'll show you how I'm going to weld these out. So we'll get these knocked out and then we'll go from there. All right guys, we're back at it tonight and we are going to see if we can't get these other 3 spools done. We'll jump over into time-lapse mode. We'll get these done and then we'll give you guys a look. I am going to try to throw in some arc shots here. I don't know how it's going to work out. I'm just going to try to rig up an old welding hood lens and see how the camera reacts to that. I'm just going to do the best I can to try to get you guys some arc shots. We'll see what happens. So we'll bounce over to these spools and see if we can't get them knocked out. All right, guys, we got these all welded out. I'm gonna give you guys a look here. So this is the 4-inch flange. I was able to get this joint on the 4-inch side with one pass because it was so tight. The way the reducer fit on that flange, I was able to get that one with one pass. These 6-inch flanges, I did those in 2 passes. I sure do like the look of the stainless. That stainless just looks sharp. So, I think that's gonna wrap those pipe fittings up. I'm gonna text the customer right now, let him know they're done, and they can come pick them up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to hit the bell so you can get reminded when a new video posts. And see you on the next one. All right, so what we got for you guys tonight is a stainless steel TIG welding pipe job. Goodness. All right, guys, so for tonight, and conch reducer is short for its long name, conch reducer is short for its full name. We'll get the Dynasty rolled out and set up, and we'll get our fittings. Goodness. This is actually the first video where we, goodness. What was that? Bridger just farted on camera.